a lot of money. So they work very hard to raise money so that we can bring these wonderful performances to you. Today we have a very interesting performance for you. This is Michael Badhair Williams. And again, like I said this morning, I don't know why he doesn't look like he has bad hair to me. I understand that we had some parents calling wondering if the kids were supposed to come to school today with bad hair. So I did. Anyway, so we've got a great guest for you, Michael Badhair Williams. He's going to bring you stories, tall tales and songs that were told to him by his grandmother and his grandmother's grandmother. These stories will tell us all about life in a special part of the United States. And you know, when I introduced it this morning, I learned something new. I mispronounced the word. I called it Appalachian. I don't know.
Correct.
Pardon?
Both are correct.
Both are correct.
North of the Mason-Dixon line, it's Appalachian. South of the Mason-Dixon line, it's pronounced Appalachian.
And you're from south of the Mason-Dixon
Yeah,
line.
and you
North
pronounce it
Carolina.
like somebody's going to throw an apple at you.
Appalachia. So he is going to tell you tales about the Appalachian Mountains. So please welcome Michael Badhair Williams.
Good morning this morning. How are you this morning? Me, my people like you, people like you, people like me, my people, me, like you. In other words,
No.
hey. How you doing, guys? Good. As was said, I'm Mike Badhair, and what I do is I tell traditional Appalachian folk tales. Sounds complicated, doesn't it? It's not. All that means is that I tell stories from the Appalachian Mountains. Are there Appalachian Mountains here in California? No, they're all the way over on the other coast. They go from Georgia all the way up through Maine, over along the East Coast. And folk tales means that I tell stories that folks have been telling for a very long time. Some of the stories I tell are 1,500, 2,000 years old. That's pretty old, isn't it? Almost as old as some of us teachers are. And probably, I would not be surprised if some of your great grandmothers and grandfathers didn't know these stories and tell them. And after they grew up, they told them their kids, and they grew up, told them their kids, and they grew up, told them their kids. It got passed along, till it got to us here today. That's called the oral tradition. Can you say that, please?
Oral tradition.
Yeah. Now, there's all kinds of these stories. They come from Scotland, Ireland, England, Wales, Africa, and the Native American cultures. Those are the primary cultures that settled Central Appalachia. And as those cultures mixed together, the stories mixed together, and you had adventure stories and love stories. Stories about foolish men, foolish women, foolish girls, foolish boys, singing stories. But I think I'm going to start out by telling an adventure story. And I got one I need some help with. If you would like to come up and help me tell the story, I need to see your hand way up in the air. I need a bunch, so keep them up. And let's see what we can do here. Young man in the gray. And have you got a skirt on, darling? You do. I'm sorry, I can't use people with skirts. Well, keep your hand up. I'll take you. Come on up. And young lady with the pigtails right there. And yep, you. And just wait. Let me look. Young man right here. Young man right here. And I want the two ladies next to me, and I want just these two ladies right now to say, hey, ever as loudly as they can.
Hey! Hey!
You come over here, and you come over here. Everybody line up on me. Come on up, buddy. Line up right here. Line up on me. Come up one step. Up one step. Now, this story goes like this. Now, one time, way back in the olden days, there was. A little old man. And it was. Little old man. A little old girl. And a little old boy. And a little old squirrel. Now, one day that family woke up and they all stretched and yawned. Everybody stretch and yawn, stretch and yawn. And that little old woman said, I think I'm going to make some biscuits for breakfast. You can't read it? Give this young lady a hand. I need another volunteer. So little old woman that can be loud. Young lady in there, right there. You come on up. Yeah, you'll make do with the skirt. Yay! Okay. I think I'm going to make some.
I think I'm gonna make some biscuits. All
Alright! That little old woman opened the cupboard, looked inside, and she said, duh. She saw they were out of sody saleratus, which is what you got to have to make the biscuits rise up. That little old woman put her hands on her hips. She said, wow! She said, we are sody saleratus. So she said to that little old boy, she said, little old boy, I want you to run down the store and get us some sody saleratus, please. And that little old boy said, sure. And he went running down to the store. He ran. Till he got to the store, and when he got to the store, he said, Mr. Storekeeper, I need some sody saleratus, please. Okay, there you go. Little old boy took it and said, hey, are we running back? Until he got to the bridge in front of his house. But when he got to the bridge in front of his house, you know who was standing on that bridge? A bear. And that bear see that little old boy, and that bear said, hey, little old boy. Little old boy said, hey, bear. Bear said, you know what? I hadn't had any breakfast this morning. And I may have to eat up your can of sody saleratus. And you know what? I may have to eat you too. She was tapping her toe. And she waited till finally the little old woman said to the little old girl, she said, little old girl, will you go see what happened to your brother?
What has happened to your brother?
Little girl said, I'll go see.
I'm gonna see.
And she went running down the store. She ran till she got in the store. When she got in the store, she said, Mr. Storekeeper, have you seen my brother?
Mr. Storekeeper, have you seen my brother?
Storekeeper said, yeah, I've seen your brother, and he's ugly. She said, no.
No.
She said, I mean, have you seen him today?
Have you seen him today?
Oh, yeah, he came in here today, got a big can of soda celebrations. But I think he went home. The little old girl said, thanks. We're running back. Got to the bridge, and you know who was there? That bear said, that little old girl, that bear said, Bear said, you know what? I eat up a little old boy. And I eat up a can of soda salads. You know what? Yeah. I may have to eat you too. And swallowed the little old girl. Well, that little old woman waited, just tapping that toe. Till finally the little old woman said to the little old man, she said, honey, darling. She said, would you go see what's happened to the children?
Would you go see what's happened to the children?
And the little old man, he said, no, that's not what he said. He said, okay, sweetie pie. And he went running down the store. He ran me. When he got in the store, he said, hey, Harold.
Hey, Harold.
Storekeeper said, hey, John, how you doing? Glad to have you here at the store. What can I do for you? Little old man said, have you seen my kids? They say, have you seen my kids?
Have you seen my kid?
Storekeeper said, yeah, they's here, but I think they went home. And the little old man said, thanks. And we ran it back. Got to the bridge, and you know who was there? That bear said, that little old man, that bear said, hey, little old man, you know what? I ate up a little old girl, and I ate up a little old boy, and I ate up a great big can of soda salads. And you know what? And swallowed the little old man. Well, the little old woman waited, just tapping that toe. Till finally she went running down to the store. She got to the store. She said, Mr. Storekeeper, have you seen my family?
Storekeeper, have you seen my family?
The storekeeper said they was here, but I think they went home. And the little old woman said, thanks. We're running back to the house, got to the bridge, and you know who was there. That bear see that little old woman in the bear said, ah! The little old woman. anybody come home, went running back and forth across the floor saying, chitter, chitter, chitter. And finally, he went running down to the store. He ran and ran and ran. It took him a long time. He had little legs, you know, until he got to the store. And when he got to the store, he hopped up on the counter and looked the storekeeper in the eye, and the little squirrel said, chitter, 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 chitter. And the storekeeper said, huh? Oh, yeah, they was here. I don't know where they went. Little squirrel said, well, chitter. And we running back to the house. Got to the bridge, and you know who was there. That bear seen that little old squirrel. And that bear said, I'm getting full. Hey, little squirrel. You know what? I ate up a little old woman and a little old man and a little old girl and a little old boy. I made the mistake of eating a great big can full of burn. Excuse me. So he salerates. You know what? I'm about to pop. But I may have just enough room left for dessert. And he swallowed the little old squirrel, but all of a sudden, that old bear's eyes got great big around, and boom! He blew wide open, and out the bear jumped. Little old man, little old woman, little old girl, little old boy, and a little old squirrel. And you know what that little old boy still had in his hands? He had that can of soda saleratus. Well, he went home, little old woman. She took that soda saleratus and some flour and some salt and some lard, made biscuits, and they had biscuits and honey butter, jelly jam, molasses, peach preserves, pear preserves. And last I heard, that little squirrel ate 47 of them biscuits all by himself. He ended up on his back on the mantelpiece, waving his little paws around in the air, saying, "Burr!" And they lived happily ever after. Give them a hand. Everybody sit down on the bottom, please. Let's talk a minute. So, let's think and talk about storytelling just for a few minutes before we do our next story. Why do you guys think the pioneers in the old days, that was before all the stuff we've got today, why did they tell stories? Stand up and tell us why, young man. Because they wanted to go night-night. Please stand up and tell me what you think. Why did they tell stories? Why did they tell stories? What did they not have that we've got today?
TV.
Very good. No TV. No radio. No Nintendo. They didn't even have Sega. These guys don't know what Sega is. No grocery stores. No furniture stores. No food stores. Nothing out there. No Walmart, no Kmart, no Target, no Toys R Us. So people, they had to make their own clothes. They had to make their own furniture. They had to make their own homes. They had to kill their own animals and clean them and dress them and preserve them, grow their own food. They also had to make their own toys. And I brought some old-time toys. And that's where these stories come from, too. The stories were a way to educate and a way to entertain. Now, I still live way back out in the mountains. I'm surrounded by about 20,000 acres of wilderness. I have bear that go through my yard occasionally. I've seen wildcat, I've seen panthers, I've seen owls that were literally this tall. Great horned owls, barred owls. No jaguars. No, we got a lot of snakes though. We got copperheads and rattlers and rats and blacks and king snakes, and most of them won't hurt you. And even the rattlers and the copperheads don't want to hurt you. They don't want you anywhere close to them. But let's go back to the toys. These old toys. In the old days, people made them for themselves. What's it made out of? Wood. And wood was something you could find around you in nature. Wood. You could just walk out and go to a tree and cut you off a piece of wood and make you a toy. This is a whammy-diddle. It's a G-haul whammy-diddle. And the reason they call it a G-haul whammy-diddle is because you can get the propeller to go one way or the other by saying G and haw to it. Now, it's like the old mule. If you wanted the mule to go to that direction, you said G, and it causes the propeller of the mule to go that way. If you wanted him to go the other way, you said haw, and it causes the mule or the propeller to go the other direction. Now, you guys try it. Say G. G. Say haw. Haw. Who wants to try it? We got somebody. Put your hands in. Okay, now what you got to do to make it go to the right? What you got to do? Say. Try it again. Say it loud. Say haw. Did you break my stick? G. Haw. Give her a hand. She's a good sport. The trick is which side you put pressure on. If you put pressure, I use my thumb, put pressure on this side of the whammy diddle, causes it to go away from the side you put pressure on because it damps the vibrations on that one side. Do the other on the other side. I use this finger over here, makes it go the other direction. By the way, I have a website. It's called Badhair.org. Has a study guide that tells you how to make these toys. Some of them, not all. I got something else I need some help with. Let's see. Once you come up, you take this one. Come stand right here, brother. Now, what are they made out of? Put your hands down. The idea, of course, is to put the ball in the hole with one hand. Okay? This one's the hard one. This one, you got to get the ring around the triangle on top. That one's 10 times harder than the other. So we're going to give you a head start. We're going to have a race. Go, and you start. You start first. You keep going. Just keep going until you get it. We'll let him go a little while. Because it's harder with that one. Okay, you start. I've been doing with my life. Give him a hand. Boy, now this one is hard, hard, hard. What's it made out of? It takes vast intelligence to run this thing. Give him a hand. out of? Wood. Hold your hand up like this. Okay, once again, wood was something you could just go get a piece of wood anywhere and make these toys. Now, sometimes they took a long time. This was one that's an example of a hard one to make. It was rough. It was tough to make. This took me 35 or 40 seconds to make this old toy. But because of the way I have carved it, it's become what they called in the old days it's become what they called in the old days a magic bat. A magic bouncing stick. Now I can take it because of the way it's carved. I can take it and I can put it right here on the end of this young lady's finger. And because of the way it's carved, it will stay right there. Balance instead. Now you can take it, put it right out on the end of this young lady's fingers, just like this, and because of the way it's carved, it'll stay right. I'm gonna have to tie it to her finger. And I'm going to tie it to her fingers. And I guarantee you it'll stay this way. Give her a hand. My fingers are slick. I had to do something to get it to stick a little bit. Look at the way the belt hangs back this direction. See that? The reason this works when you add all that weight out there is actually some of the weight's hanging back this direction. Even though it's way down here, it's still on this side of this point, which changes the center of balance or the center of gravity down to the end of that old stick. I've got one more to show you. Now this is what I'm going to do on my own. Put your hands down. Put your hands down. This guy is made out of... Yeah. He's called the dancing man or a dancing Dan or a lumberjack. Now, in the old days, they did a lot of dancing. Rounds, reels, squares, contras, march dances. And the march dances, for instance, were just for men. A lot of the other ones were very complicated dances. And if you didn't know the dance, you could still participate by dancing with the dancing man. And the way he works is he stands out on the end of the board, you knock on the board in time to the music. And to get his arms to go, you wiggle the stick. He also provided a second function. He provided rhythm for the music. In the Appalachian Mountains, we didn't use drums. So he provided a rhythm that you also got from the banjo. This bum-diddy, bum-diddy, bum-diddy kind of rhythm that's called frailing or old-time banjo. Now let me show you how he works. And listen for the rhythm. Well, baby, love your part, go baby, like fire. Baby, love your part, I think I'm gonna die. I went down to Mojo's house and met the man. He slept on a feather bed, and I slept on the floor. Baby, love your part, go baby, like fire. Just like that. Sit all the way down to the bottom, young man. Sweetie, all the way down. All the way down, please. That way the people behind you can see. And all the way down on your bottom, big man. Right here. All the way down on your bottom, please. All the way down on your bottom. I've got to decide what story I'm going to tell. I think I may tell you guys. This is one everybody's going to help me with. This one, put your hands down, because this is one everybody's going to help me with. And it goes like this. Now, one time, way back in the olden days, there was a little boy by the name of Wiley. And Wiley and his mama, they lived at the edge of a big old forest right there in the swag at Snake Mountain. And that was a big old wilderness in them days. And Wiley's mama, she was what in those days and times they called a conjure woman. You know what that means? No. It means that she did magic. But now she didn't do bad magic. She did good magic. She tried to help people. See, there was another fellow who lived in them woods, and he hurt people. He did bad magic. As a matter of fact, he's what happened to Wiley's dad. And they called him the Hairy Man. Well, now one day Wiley's mama called and she said, Wiley! And Wiley come running in the house and said, yeah, Mama. She said, Wiley, I want you to go pick me some berries. Wiley said, okay, Mama, I will. She said, now, Wiley, you leave those old dogs of yours here at the house. I know you. If you take your dogs, you'll piddle and play and get half the berries picked in twice the time. Wiley, her daddy said, but Mama, if I don't take my dogs with me, that old hairy man might get me. My dog's is the only thing he's scared of. She said, oh, Wiley. She said, here. And she got a glass of milk and she put it on the table. And she reached up and she, whoo, conjured. She said, there now, Wiley, see that glass of milk? If that glass of milk turns red, I'll see it and know that hairy man's after you. And I'll go outside and untie all your dogs and they'll come run that old hairy man off. Wiley said, Mama. She said, no, Wiley. So Wiley had to go. Wiley tied up his dogs and took a basket his mama had made. Went, set that basket down in a stump right in the middle of the blackberry patch. Wiley reached up, went to pick his blackberries. And sure enough, he picked that basket twice as full of berries in half the time. Not because he wasn't piddling and playing with his dogs, but because he was scared to death of that old hairy man. Well, he just got his basket plumb full and was reaching down to pick it up and carry it home. When Wiley heard a stick behind him in the woods goes, ah! Time Wiley heard that, he went climbing up a tree like a squirrel. He got up on the top of a tree, sat on the limb, turned around and looked down, and standing right there at the foot of his tree was a hairy man. That hairy man looked up and he said, hello, Wiley. Wiley looked down and he said, hi. Said, looking for something to eat, Wiley. Wiley said, you want some berries? Hairy man said, no berries, Wiley. But I might cook and eat you. And back home, that glass of milk turned blood red. Wiley's mama see that, she went run outside, she untied them dogs. Now let me tell you something. There was one thing in this world those dogs love best of all, and that was Wiley. So the time them dogs got free, they took a sniff on the air. Then they took a sniff on the floor. Or not the floor, but the ground. And they figured out which way Wiley had gone, and those dogs took off after Wiley, hollering for him every step. They said, oh, they's all beagle dogs, you know. Well, now, way off down the road, that old hairy man, he heard the there wasn't one thing he was scared of. What was that?
Dog.
Time he heard them dogs, that old hairy man said, uh-oh. Dogs, Wiley. I gotta go, I'll get you later. And about that time, those dogs come around the curve and spied that old hairy man. What do you think those dogs said when they saw that hairy man? What'd they say? But they started chasing that hairy man and chased him 37 miles. Time he got gone, Wiley jumped down out of that tree, grabbed up his basket, and went running home and set it down, told his mama what happened. She said, Wiley, looky there. You got that basket twice as full of berries in half the time. Big old pretty berries, too. And it worked out just like we said it would. Those dogs run that old hairy man off. That worked real well. We just put you doing the same thing again tomorrow. Wiley said, She said, now what? So Wiley had to go. That next day, he took his basket back after he tied his dogs up, sat it down, reached up and picked the first berry, and that's when he heard another stick behind him in the woods go snap! And up that tree he went again. Sat on the limb, looked down, you know who was there. And that hairy man said, hello, Wiley. I'm still hungry. And back home that glass of milk turned blood red. Only problem was, Wiley's mom would go down to the creek to get some water to do the wash. And there wasn't anybody there in the house to see that glass of milk turn red. Which meant that there wasn't anybody there to turn them dogs loose either. Well, Wiley, he waited and he listened, but his dogs never come. And then Wiley looked down and saw that hairy man reach up and grab that tree like he's going to start climbing. And Wiley knew he had to do something. Time that hairy man grabbed that tree, Wiley said, uh-oh. Oh, no. Mr. Hairy Man. Oh, no. Mr. Hairy Man. And finally that hairy man stepped back to the tree and said, what, Wiley? Wiley said, Mr. Hairy Man. I understand you're pretty good at conjuring. That old hairy man said, I'm the best conjurer in the forest, Wiley. Wiley said, I bet you can't make a bunch of rope appear everywhere. And that hairy man didn't even slow down. He threw his arms out to the side, threw his head back, he said, rope, rope, lots of rope. And all of a sudden there's rope everywhere, on the yard, around, on the ground, in the bushes, in the trees, as far as you could see. And Wiley grabbed one of them ropes in that tree he was in, like he's going to get out of that tree, swing out of it, and get away. He said, I'm going to get away now, Mr. Hairy Man, unless you can make the rope everywhere disappear. And that hairy man threw his arms out the side. He said, rope everywhere! Disappear! And all that rope he conjured disappeared. And the rope holding up Wiley's pants disappeared. in the road, holding Wiley's dogs at his house. It disappeared too. Time that road disappeared, those dogs realized they was free. They took a sniff on the air. Down the road they went. What did they say as they went running down the road? Chased that old hairy man 57 miles. Wiley jumped down out of that tree, grabbed up his basket in one hand, held up his pants with the other, and he went running home. Got home and told his mama what had happened. She said, Wiley, oh son, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I should never have made you go without your dogs. And I never will again either. She said, but you know what? We fooled that old hairy man twice now. If we fool him one more time, that'll be 3 times, and he'll have to leave us alone. That's the way it works. She said, this is what we'll do. And she whispered in Wiley's ear that night, about 2:30 in the morning, the front door of their cabin opened up. And in the door walked the hairy man. He looked around. There was Wiley's mama asleep in a rocking chair in front of the fireplace. And there was Wiley in the bed with the covers pulled plumb over the top of his head. That old hairy man watched Wiley's mama, backed over to the bed, put his hand under the covers and grabbed Wiley by his warm neck, jerked Wiley out from under them covers and swallowed Wiley whole. But all of a sudden, Wiley jumped out of the wall. And Wiley's mama jumped up out of the rocking chair and they both said, hello, Mr. Hairy Man. That hairy man seen Wiley, he said, ooh. Hello, Wiley. I thought I just ate you. What did I eat? Wiley said, well, yeah, a big old baby doll full of very hot rocks. My baby. That's 3. Goodbye, Wiley. And I'll never see you, never know. Oh, boy. And out the door he went. Sure enough, that was the very last time that Wiley, or his mama, was ever bothered by the hairy man. And last I heard, they lived. We've got 2 or 3 minutes left. Very quickly, let's see who has questions they'd like to ask about stories, about what it's like being a storyteller, or what it's like living in the North Carolina mountains. Please stand up and ask your question so everyone can hear. I'm glad you liked it. Yes, in the white shirt.
Was the hairy man's back even hairy?
You know, I don't know. Having never met him personally and inspected his back, I couldn't tell you. In the back, is he real? No, he's not real. Whoa, we've got somebody in the back who's standing up to talk. Let's please respect that person's turn up.
How come the hairy man was afraid of the dog?
I don't know.
Because it smelled like bacon.
I think maybe the dogs weren't afraid of him. You think? No, they were just hot rocks. Young man in the gray shirt in the middle. So in the middle, right here. Young man right there.
How was his stomach on fire?
Well, he'd eat hot rock. Boy, we're sort of stuck here in one little groove. Let's become a little, thank you.
How long have you been doing storytelling?
I've been telling stories since I was 4 years old and broke my mama's flower vase. I've been telling folk tales since I was in the 4th grade and been doing it professionally on stage for 32 years now. 1975.
Oh!
So a long time. Let's try this again now. Yes, sir. No, not tell me time, ask me time. You got a question? Ask me time. Okay, young lady in pink.
Is it hard being a storyteller?
Is it hard being a storyteller? It is work. It is. I book my own shows for the most part. I travel all over the country, make my own travel arrangements. I'm always looking for new material and working new material up. I develop my own advertising. So yeah, it can be very hard. You know, I'm also a photographer, so I've developed, working with Photoshop, I'm using that to develop new advertising for myself. I do all of those things on my own. It keeps me interested. That's what I like. Because if you ever quit learning, then things get really boring. So, yes.
What was it like living in the mountains of North Carolina?
I still live there. That is home for me.
What was it like?
It's a whole lot like living here, except not quite as many bright lights. My nearest neighbor is a quarter of a mile away. My next nearest neighbor is half a mile away. I have a trout river in my front yard that I just saw some trout that big come out of it 2 weeks ago. Nice. I am backed up against 20,000 acres of wilderness. I have satellites, so I get all the channels you do. I have a grocery store, but it's 15 miles away from my home. That's the closest one. I don't ever use the crosswalk because I don't have one. The nearest crosswalk to my house is 15 miles away. So when I get ready to cross the road, most of the time don't even look. I just go because I live so far out in the country that the sun rises right across the road from my house. That's a joke. I live way, way out. I'm almost at the end of the road. So it's a different place. But I like being there. I like the neighbors. Everybody knows everybody. It's a community. It's a small community that everybody, you get to know your neighbors very well. No, it's not the desert. It's actually a rainforest. We get 60 to 80 inches of rain a year. That's a lot of rain. But you get used to it. Doesn't bother me at all. I'm out in the rain all the time now. I never even think about it most of the time. Young lady in the blue in the back.
You tell stories mostly at school or like?
I do schools, I do libraries, I do festivals, I do corporate events, mostly at schools. I do, auditoriums sometimes. I've told in lots and lots of different places, churches, camps. But schools is, I would say, 95% of what I do, yes. Young man right there in the middle, in blue, yes, sir.
Do you sell books?
No, I don't sell books. I've got 2 new albums coming out probably in the next 2 or 3 months. And I'm thinking about starting to sell some of these new toys. I do have a website. I think I said it earlier about badhair.org. If you want to learn how to make these toys for yourself, it's in the study guide. And teachers, that study guide is a PDF easily downloadable. Yes. Well, I got 2 for the price of 1 there. Let's let the lady go first. a second, darling. Let's respect this young lady's turn to talk, please. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
How long does it take to memorize a story?
You know, I can hear a story and turn around and tell it. I don't memorize it. I just remember what happens. And then I see it in my mind's eye. So when I'm telling the story of for instance, Jack and the Beanstalk, I see Jack climbing up that huge beanstalk with those huge leaves going out and that brilliant green and having to claw his way up through there. And I can see him. I can tell you what he looks like. When he gets to the top, I can tell you what the giant looks like, what his house looks like, because I can see it in my mind's eye. And that's my job, is to see it well enough to tell you what I see and get you to see it too. So that's how I tell a story. I don't memorize it. Last question, right here. Good question. Where did I get the stories? Some of these stories I got from my family. Some of them I got from other storytellers. Some of them I got from books. Old timers that remember being told stories when they were kids. The easiest place for you guys to find them is going to be to go to your media center here. Have a media center here at the school. Library here. Go to the library. Ask the librarian to help you find the folk tale section. Jack Tales by Richard Chase. Grandfather Tales by Richard Chase. The People Could Fly by Virginia Hamilton. The Days of Los Tortillas by Joe Hayes. If those are out any of the folktale books, you will love. There's wonderful stories in there. And if they don't have a lot here, I'm sure the public library also has a vast compendium of folktale books. Giants, dragons, witches, wonderful stories. We're out of time, buddy. I'm sorry. You can ask me afterwards, okay? You guys have been a wonderful audience, and I want to thank you very much for your attention. And you guys have a great day. Hope you learned something. Look to your teacher.